the female desire nobody admits. Have you ever noticed how some women fall for men who don't treat them well? Or why so many live in silence about what they truly desire? Freud noticed this over 100 years ago, and his explanation remains shocking, even today. Before we dive in, if you want to understand your mind and explore what Freud uncovered about human nature, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, this gets deep. Here's a question that might make you uncomfortable. Is female desire truly free, or is it shaped, molded, and repressed by forces so deep we don't even recognize them? Welcome back to Freud Without Mysteries. I'm your guide through the complex world of psychoanalysis, translating Freud's insights into language that actually makes sense. Today we're tackling one of Freud's most controversial topics, female desire and the unconscious forces that shape it. Now, before anyone gets triggered, remember, Freud was a product of his time, but his observations about repression, unconscious desire, and social conditioning, those insights cut through decades and still explain behaviors we see every single day. Think about it. How many women do you know who say one thing but seem to want something completely different? Who claim they want a nice guy but consistently choose men who are emotionally unavailable? Who silence their own needs to avoid being called demanding or too much? Freud would say, this isn't weakness, it's not stupidity. It's the result of a psychological war between what society tells women they should want and what they actually desire deep down. The Freudian framework. Let me break down Freud's revolutionary insight. He believed that female desire was profoundly repressed by three powerful forces. First, cultural programming. From childhood, women receive thousands of subtle messages about what's appropriate to want. Be nurturing, not selfish. Be desired, but don't be the obvious about your own desires. It's like having a voice in your head constantly editing your thoughts before you even think them. Second, the fear of judgment. Freud noticed that women often experience what he called moral anxiety, the terror of being seen as improper, slutty, or unfeminine. This fear is so strong it literally rewrites their conscious desires. It's like having internal censorship software running 24/7. Third, the unconscious conflict. Here's where it gets really deep. Freud argued that women often develop what he called reaction formation, unconsciously choosing the opposite of what they actually want, as a way to hide from their true desires, even from themselves. Picture your mind like an iceberg. The conscious part, what you think you want, is just the tip floating above water. But underneath, that's where your real desires live, along with all the shame, fear, and conditioning that keeps them buried, the constructed femininity. Now, Freud had some controversial theories about female psychology that we need to address with modern understanding. He talked about penis envy and the castration complex, terms that sound outdated today. But strip away the Victorian language and you'll find something fascinating. What Freud was really describing was how women learn to see themselves through the male gaze, to define their worth through what they lack rather than what they possess. In modern terms, we might call this internalized misogyny or the pressure to perform femininity. Think about it this way. Imagine growing up in a world where your value is constantly measured by your ability to be desired by others rather than your ability to desire for yourself. Your worth becomes tied to being chosen, not to choosing. Your sexuality becomes about being attractive, not about experiencing attraction. This creates what Freud called a fundamental alienation. Women become strangers to their own desire. They know what they're supposed to want, the socially approved relationship, the good man, the conventional life, but they've lost touch with what actually lights them up inside. It's like being handed someone else's playlist and told it's your favorite music. You might even convince yourself you like it, but deep down, something feels off. How this shows up today? Let's get practical. How does this repressed desire manifest in modern relationships? I'll give you some examples that might feel uncomfortably familiar. The nice guy paradox. A woman says she wants kindness and stability, but consistently finds herself attracted to men who are emotionally unavailable, dominant, or even slightly cruel. Why? Because her unconscious is rebelling against the shoulds. The forbidden becomes irresistible precisely because it's forbidden. The silence pattern a woman in a relationship never speaks up about what she actually wants in bed, in life, in the relationship. She's learned that expressing desire makes her demanding or high maintenance. So she hints, hopes, and suffers in silence, then resents her partner for not reading her mind. The self-sabotage cycle a woman gets close to having exactly what she claims to want. The loving relationship, the successful career, the life she's built, and then she destroys it. Freud would say her unconscious is rejecting a life that doesn't align with her repressed desires. The idealization trap a woman creates an impossible fantasy of the perfect relationship or partner, then uses this fantasy to reject every real option that comes along. It's a perfect defense mechanism if no one can live up to the ideal. She never has to risk actually getting what she wants and discovering it might not be enough. The deeper patterns, here's what's really happening underneath these behaviors. Freud believed that repressed desire doesn't just disappear. It goes underground and starts running the show from the shadows. When a woman can't acknowledge what she really wants, her unconscious finds ways to seek it indirectly. She might choose partners who mirror her internal conflict, create drama as a way to feel intensity when her safe life feels dead inside, develop physical symptoms, headaches, fatigue, anxiety as her body rebels against living a life that doesn't match her true desires, become obsessed with other women who seem to live more freely, either idealizing or hating them. It's like having a part of yourself constantly trying to break free, while another part keeps pushing it back down. That internal war is exhausting, and it shows up in every area of life. The tragedy isn't that women have these desires. It's that they've been taught to fear them so much that they'd rather live half a life than risk being judged for wanting more. The path of freedom. So what did Freud suggest? How does a woman reclaim her authentic desire? First, recognition without judgment. The journey begins with honest self-examination. What patterns keep showing up in your relationships? What do you find yourself wanting that you immediately talk yourself out of? What fantasies do you have that you've never shared with anyone? Freud's method was simple but revolutionary. Listen to yourself without trying to fix or change what you hear. Just listen. Second, understand the fear. Most repressed desire is guarded by fear. Fear of being too much, too sexual, too demanding, too selfish. Freud would say, examine these fears. Where did they come from? Whose voice is telling you that your desires are wrong? Third, reclaim your right to want. This is the radical part. Freud believed that psychological health required accepting your desires, not necessarily acting on all of them, but at least acknowledging they exist and have a right to exist. It's the difference between saying I shouldn't want this and saying I want this and I'm allowed to want it, even if I choose not to pursue it. Here's my challenge for you, and it's going to be uncomfortable. For the next week, pay attention to the moments when you silence yourself, when you don't speak up about what you want, when you choose the safe option over what actually excites you, when you judge another woman for living more boldly than you dare to. Don't try to change anything yet. Just notice. Because here's what Freud knew. You can't be free from patterns you haven't acknowledged, and you can't choose authentically if you don't know what you actually want underneath all the conditioning. The question isn't whether you have desires that society has taught you to hide. You do. We all do. The question is, are you brave enough to look at them without flinching? What happens when a woman truly listens to what her body and soul desire? Not what the world demands of her, but what she actually wants. That's when real freedom begins. So, what do you think? Does this make sense? Have you noticed these patterns in yourself or the women around you? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. Your insights often spark ideas for future videos. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you want to keep exploring the mysteries of the human mind with Freud as our guide, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Next week, we're diving into male psychology and the desires men won't admit to having. Trust me, it's just as revealing. Until then, remember, understanding yourself isn't selfish. It's the first step toward living authentically. See you in the next video.